Digital Chicago started in 2015 as a grant from the Andrew W. Mellon Foundation with a goal of producing digital projects about Chicago's history and culture. By the end of 2018, we'll have approximately 20 faculty-student projects emerging out of the grant.
The subjects range from anthropology to theater to religious studies to music. I think we've touched on most of the humanities. With Chicago being so close to campus, it makes a really rich source for our faculty and students to draw on.
It's an amazing diversity of information about the city, from material on archaeological digs, to a history of redlining and restrictive housing covenants, to 360-degree views of sacred spaces. We're excited about the breadth of the work, and we're excited that the public will finally get to see it.
Chicago is always on the make, and it has been, and Chicago's religious landscape has been changing. Great architectural monuments, churches and synagogues were really turn of the century, which is just such a great era in terms of the architecture, the innovations. I've been working on First Presbyterian Church in Lake Forest. We went in there and we got 360 images and were able to put them all together into the sort of digital walkthroughs. Because it's actually really important to look at the story of the place. What does it matter that the space is right there as opposed to somewhere down the street? All of that I can tell through digital technology. As you look around, you can click on things and you can navigate through them, and it tells you, okay, this is what this room is about. This is why the church is where it is. This is what the iconography means when you look at it. So it is in some ways almost better than real.
We have a history and a handbook of ensemble-generated theater in Chicago. A group of people come together and collaboratively create the material that then gets performed. That kind of theater making has a really strong history in Chicago. So most people are familiar with Second City, which is widely considered the birthplace of improvisational comedy in the United States. But the methods that were developed at Second City, going back to the 1950s, actually have their origin in work that was being done at the Hull House in the very early part of the 20th century. Basically theater games for children. We have an online resource where people can watch exercises that are being taught today and also we restage some of the work in the early part of the 20th century. The fact that there could be this resource that really honors that history and makes some of those ideas widely available is really exciting.
My project is to produce a kind of a digital online exhibit about Kenneth Sawyer Goodman. He's the guy after whom the Goodman Theater is named, and he was a big figure in what was called the Little Theater movement in the years leading up to World War I. Those little theater plays were stageable by both professionals and amateurs, are short little one-acts. In some cases, they were 3-minute plays. The Wonder Hat is this kind of whimsical fairy tale the artist captures very nicely, and Back of the Yards is gritty and realistic. And he was trying to do something, that was spoken in real, unfaked American voices. I think Chicago is often presented as the place that spells your destiny for you. The drama is, can we become something other than the city wants us to be?
We're working on a comprehensive investigation of housing discriminatory practices. Restrictive covenants creates a language that says this property cannot be sold under any condition to what's then called Negroes, so the African Americans or Asian Americans. If anyone who owns the property transfers that property to a minority or someone that belonged to any of these racial or ethnic categories, the person did face legal action by the state. We put all the information we have in layered maps that run across the decades that represent all the subdivisions where we found racial restrictive covenants. And on each of those maps, there will be pins that are hyperlinked to additional summaries of what information we have about the subdivision.
My Digital Chicago project is the end result of many years of excavation and analysis of materials from the garbage pit next to a historic Louis Sullivan and Frank Lloyd Wright designed home from 1891-92. We actually excavated over 28,000 individual artifacts. The only way I've done my archaeology is by teaching undergraduates. In 2015, I had a class, Archaeological Field Methods, spent a month with me excavating, thinking about the 150 or so products that we were able to identify out of the total assemblage of artifacts. that I wanted to know. I wanted to see how it kind of all laid out if I put them on a map. There are two main maps, a Chicago map and a world map. Click on one of the dots and it gives you the information about a particular artifact. We have perfumes, mouthwash, jars of McLaren's Imperial Cheddar cheese, plates of Cantonese porcelain. The maps show, that some things came from Japan and from China, France and England and Ireland, and some things came from 2 blocks away on Schiller. You can really see those global connections across space that have become very common for our experiences and how we consume, but we're just getting started in that particular way at the turn of the 20th century.
The Columbian Exposition was the big World's Fair. Chicago was trying to proclaim itself as a major metropolis in the aftermath of the Great Fire. The fair was actually very important musically. The first time that Americans were exposed to Indonesian gamelan music, Hawaiian hula music, the early stirrings of jazz. On the Midway, there was sort of pavilions of different musical cultures. People commented that it was cacophonous. The newspaper reports talked about the strangeness of the sounds, how it didn't seem like music, and there would be just sort of noise to them. What I'm trying to do is to reconstruct the souvenir music that was written for the fair, and most of this music has not been recorded, so I kind of reconstruct it and present it on this website.
One of the exciting things about the Digital Chicago projects is the way they've involved student research as research assistants for the faculty projects.
Student research has been integral to every phase of this project, and we hope you'll check out the website at digitalchicago.lakeforest.edu.